Hello everyone, welcome back to another Batman Miniature Battle Report 350 rep of Court of Owls versus a Bane crew. It's winter time in Gotham again on the same board, but hopefully we'll be playing a different mission this time. Also bonus doggle. Hello Sora. Yeah, you're just going to stare at the camera again? She's not fond of the camera. Anyway, so yes, this is the board we'll be playing on. Nice frosty theme, and let's go take a look at the two crews. So here's the 350 rep Court of Owls. It's from the Bat Box as they come. So led by Lincoln Marsh over there with free agent the Gotham Butcher, and then for henchmen the Talon William Cobb, Zhao at the front there, kind of darting forwards, and Strix with her dual katanas at the back there. So just as they come, as far as extra equipment purchased, so look to my side, Strix has +1 magazine, a grapple gun, and ancient training, which gives her master fighter. The Talon William Cobb has climbing claws and a camel vest, and the Butcher doesn't have anything because he's a free agent, because now we know that's not what you do. As far as objectives, they have taken loot, medical, and the unique one for Court of Owls that comes in the Bat Box, the 3 owl advisors, which, like the bat signal, can be placed on buildings. I think they just give 1 victory point to a Court of Owls person that controls them. Also, thank you for pointing out that there is a difference in the rules between player who controls objective and owner of objective. So some objectives, despite being deployed in the opponent's side, can only be claimed by the side who owns it. So that's been getting done wrong. I'm going to correct and do it right from now on, hopefully. So that's Court of Owls. Let's take a look at the interesting Bane crew. So here is the Bane crew, and it's technically an illegal crew because it comes in over 350 rep. Comes in at like 364, I think, because even Bane's henchmen are pretty expensive. Going to allow it, but we're not going to give them any extra equipment, so they're just as is. But being led by Rebirth Bane, who's exceptionally expensive on his own. Free agent Deathstroke is entering the field. If it would zoom in, or rather focus. Focusing is impossible on him because he's constantly in a state of moving so quickly. Okay, it's not going to do it, is it? It kind of did it for like a split second. And then he's joined by his Stealth Op henchman and his Elite Op with the Machine Gun henchman. As far as objectives, Ace Chemicals, ammo, and a Titan container. So as I say, illegal for 350 rep technically because it's just over. There was no way to make it work. But not taking any extra equipment to kind of balance it out, hopefully. So we're going to set up lampposts, or pick objectives rather. No, not objectives. Scenario, that's the word I was blanking on. Pick the scenario, set up deployment, lampposts, sewers, and we'll go over all that in a second. So via random d6 roll, we got scenario 4, which is skirmish, which we did fairly recently. 6 rounds length, it's essentially kill each other, 8-inch deployment zone for each player, no man's land in the middle, with the bonus objectives bring me his head, 3 victory points to the side that beats the other crew's boss, and teach them a lesson, 2 victory points to any player if it's the 50% total rep. That might be easier for the Court of Owls to do than Bane, given how few models they have and how expensive Deathstroke and Bane is. So, table is all set up, all ready to go. Court of Owls deployment, 8 inches up to the line here, and then over there is Bane's crew. In terms of deployment, we've got the Talon there, we've got the Gotham Butcher, Jacob, Strix, and Zhao. And for the Bane side, we've got their Titan container in the frozen lake there, and ammo box there. Also, well, there's sewer grating, lampposts all along here. One of the owls from the Court of Owls objective is up on there. Then we have Bane's Titan containers over there and over there. Court of Owls loot is practically right in the middle. The tree's more or less in the middle, so it's almost there. Sewer grating next to it. Got a couple more lamps there, there. Another owl up there with the lamp. The final owl is actually on the ground over here, just hiding away. We've got Bane and his Elite Op here, along with a lamp. A sewer grating next to Deathstroke there. And then right round here, we've got the Court of Owls medical next to sewer grating, and the Stealth Op right there. So that is how deployment is looking. I think I covered all the objectives. The Titan container, the Ace Chemicals, and the ammo for Bane, the owls, the loot and medical for Court of Owls. Yeah, I think that covers it. So, all that's left is to find out who goes first. We're going to do green for Bane, pink for Court of Owls. Court of Owls will be taking first activation in Battle Round 1. So to start off the game with the first activation for the Court of Owls, Strix opted to do what she didn't do last time, which was hang back and camp an objective. She was here roughly next to Lincoln. She is pretty fast. She darted forwards, using up 2 movement counters on top of her base move to get in contact with the loot in the middle of the map there. She then used another movement counter to pick it up. She did have a special to crouch, but I think crouching doesn't work if you're not next to anything that would actually obscure you. So she is in the open, but she is holding onto the loot, so it'll be on her card now after this. And now it is over to Bane, although Bane's group is 4 models to 5, so they have 1 pass that they're able to use at any point during the battle round. Bane's crew did opt to activate next and activated the Elite Op, who walked into this ruin here and hopped up 2 floors. Right up there. He then crouched, which he's actually going to need to do to be able to see through those windows because of the height they are. So he is now in a position there where hopefully he can take advantage from all those lamps in the central battlefield there to pick off the Court of Owls as they approach. He is planning on mostly just staying there until towards the end when he might go for a last minute grab. But that's his doing. We'll be crossing back over to the Court of Owls now. For the Court of Owls, Zhao activated next, and as we now know, that objective there of a Titan container isn't theirs, and it does say it's only the owner who can claim it, which explains why it goes in the deployment zone of the enemy. So he can't grab that, so he hopped over the icicles here and made contact with one of the messenger owls there. So if he stays there at the end of the battle round, he'll commune with it, get information, which results in 1 victory point if he's still there. He is eliminated by the lamp though, and presumably the owl marker does not give cover. So he crouched, but I don't think it would actually impart anything. But as it stands, that's 2 victory points poised for the Court of Owl already. Let's see what Bane does in response. So on the far side of the Wayne Financial Building, the next person to activate was Stealthop, who was kind of guarding the medical supplies there. Although if the Talon or Lincoln Marsh come through the sewer to get it, the Stealthop doesn't stand much chance against either of them. So rather than stay there, he opted to move up, kind of slightly sideways, not the full direct ahead movement that he would have had because he can have 3 movement counters. He hid behind the open corridor there and he crouched behind it. So he is moving up a little bit, but he's kind of leaving the field wide open. He could aim for one of the chemicals, he could just aim for Strix, we'll see. For the Court of Owls next, the Gotham Butcher activated, and once again very surprised by just how far he can get with being huge, fast, and having up to 3 movement counters on top of his base move. So he started 8 inches in on the edge here, he has sprinted past these chemicals, oh, my finger's in the way, the lamppost, just past all of that. And he's saying hi to the Stealth Op, who looks like he's just getting out of his car. Maybe a bit of a mistake moving him up there, because the Gotham Butcher, he can't claim objectives, he literally only gets points for murdering people. So he is going for Stealth Op with that in mind. Might not end well for him. The Bane crew is going to use their pass, so next is going to be another Court of Owl activation. So because of that pass, Court of Owl crew had to go again, and Jacob Cobb the Talon activated. He has Climbing Claws from the extra equipment purchased with the leftover funding, so that just means he can scale buildings and get into his movement rather than having to do jumps or anything like that. He was down here next to the Batmobile, he has hopped all the way up here and is now convening with another Court of Owls marker. So that's another potential 1 victory point if he's still left alone by the end of the battle round. Bane's crew has to activate now, either Bane himself or Deathstroke. So for Bane next, they did indeed activate the man himself, and he charged around the side of the building here towards Purzel over there. So that could be the first showdown we have next time. So now Lincoln Marsh has to activate, that's the final one for the Court of Owls. Whether or not he decides to take the sewer grating will probably be relevant. Deathstroke is sitting right next to a sewer grating as well, kind of just lying in wait. He's been watching the battle unfold and is preparing to decide what to do. So we're just going to cover the last 2 activations of Battle Round 1 here because it was a couple of sewer movements. Lincoln moved from his position there by taking the sewer grating, basically to kind of block the Gotham Butcher in case Slade had any ideas about stopping the Gotham Butcher's violent act that's going to happen in Battle Round 2. So he stood in the way, hoping that it would deter Deathstroke. Deathstroke did take the sewer as an alternative of heading towards, well, that sewer grating, and opted to pop up inside the Court of Owls deployment right next to the ammo, so he is holding it so they can at least score some victory points at the end of this battle round. We'll tally up those points now and be back with a recap for Battle Round 1. So at the end of Battle Round 1, here's how things stand. The Court of Owls are communing with two of their objectives. One right here in the corner, one up here in the medical building, which gives them 1 victory point each, and Strix is holding on to the loot that she grabbed during her activation, so that's another one for a total of 3 at the end of the first battle round. The Bane crew mostly just shuffled around. The only victory points they gained was from Slade teleporting over to the ammo crate right at the end of the turn there. He's not liable to stay next to it though, because that's not what he's being paid for. So at the end of Battle Round 1, it's all tied up at 3 victory points each. Now all that remains is to see whom, and I think this will be important, whom we will be activating first in Battle Round 2, and after shaking, it is going to be the Court of Owls again. That doesn't bode well for somebody. So a bit of an awkward angle to get, but the first activation for Battle Round 2 was indeed the Gotham Butcher, who ran over to Stealth Op next to his very lovely car and assaulted him. Stealth Op obviously presumed this is how things were going to go, so he had 4 defense dice, which helped a little bit. The Gotham Butcher got 1 blood, 1 stun through, plus a 6 on the collateral for an extra stun. So 2 stun, 1 blood in total done to the Stealth Op. That's half his HP, I think? Oh, over half, he only has 5. So he's hurt bad, but he didn't go down. So he is able to do something on his activation. Whether or not that's the next one, we will see in a moment. The first activation for Bane's crew was Bane himself. He charged around the back of the car there, right into Zhao's face. Did all 6 attacks. Zhao had 3 defense dice, not too bad. In the end, only 4 stun got through as a result of 2 reinforced hits that scored wounds. Zhao has 6 endurance, so he's on 2 left. But he's not knocked out or anything, not knocked down or either. So he's hurting, but he is conscious and alive. So considering he withstood all of Bane's attacks, that's pretty good. Now we'll move on to the Court of Owls' next activation. So the Court of Owls activated Zhao next to get out of dodge because he has not got a chance against Bane, even though he did manage to weather 1 set of attacks. He had everything left over that wasn't in defense in movement, so he hopped all the way over here, and he is next to this sewer grating, but he could not use it. So he is hoping that that's enough distance and safe space between him and Bane that he's going to be okay, but he's now next to there. His goal is most likely to teleport via the sewer next to the medical container and just sit next to that for the rest of the match, maybe even take a dose of it himself so he doesn't get hindered by the stun damage he's accumulated. Either way, that's where he's moved to, a little bit cowardly, but necessary. The next activation was Elite Op. He wanted to shoot at Strix. He was up there in that top window, remember. Strix is right there and within 12. However, Strix has the stealth rule, which means you can only target her if she's within 8. Unless she's illuminated by a lamp, which she isn't, because these 2 here are out of range. So she couldn't be targeted. It's not likely he's going to be able to get anyone else as a shot. So he was up here. He didn't have anything in movement, so he's just managed to hop down to the ground floor, but other than that, he can't do anything. I was hoping to maybe do more with him than that. Sadly, that is not the case, at least so far. Seeing an opportunity, Strix activated next. Now remember, she's having to give up a movement counter to move while holding the loot, so she isn't quite as fast as she would normally be. She moved from roughly the centre position through the fencing there, or the walls rather, heading towards the building that the Elite Op is in. It might have been a mistake moving him from the window. So Bane is most likely going to use his pass now, since he only has Deathstroke to move, whereas Court of Owls still has Lincoln Marsh and the Talon, so we'll see which of them get forced to activate now. In order to force Deathstroke to activate first, Lincoln activated rather than the Talon. He is in Iron Man power armor essentially, so he can fly for 1 movement, 1 special, which adds 8 vertical inches of movement to his move. So he shot up this building and is now sitting next to the owl advice marker up there, so he is securing an extra victory point at the end of the turn. Deathstroke has to activate now, it can't pass because there isn't one available, so we'll see if he does anything. If he opts just to stand still to claim that ammo, knowing that the Talon's going to come for him, then maybe just weather the blows. We might just skip straight to that, we shall see. So skipping ahead, because Deathstroke did just stay still next to the ammo, the Talon activated, used his climbing claws to scramble down the building and got into combat with the world's most fearsome mercenary. Opted to do the combo attack with his knife, which means it just has sharp and not handy, but went for a number of attacks over additional rerolls. Probably a mistake though, given that Slade is defense 5. Had a couple of dice in defense, he had his rest in attack. In the end, nothing got through. not a thing. He is contesting the ammo though, so that's not going to award any victory points. Going to be an interesting showdown next turn though, to see whether Slade can take out the Talon Assassin. But we'll be back in a second with the full recap for Battle Round 2. So at the end of Battle Round 2, a quick correction, we totally forgot that Stealth Op survived the Gotham Butcher smacking him around. So he didn't have anything in movement, which meant he's only going to get 4 movement, which means he's not going to get away very far. He did have 1 spare dice in attack. He took a swing at the Gotham Butcher and missed, so nothing came of that. So it wouldn't have affected the order of play, I think. Forgetting about him, I don't think it would have made it so that the Talon was forced to take a turn before Slade, and that's really the only part that would have made a significant difference. In terms of points, 1 L marker is being conversed with by Lincoln up there. Strix still has the loot on her person, and the ammo is contested, so Court of Owls only got 2 victory points there, but Bane's crew got none. So, let's see. Statistically, it is more likely that Bane will be getting a first activation for once, but let's see. Yes, Bane's crew will be getting first activation in Battle Round 3. So to open Battle Round 3, Deathstroke himself activated, and he has a rule called Hidden Sniper. So for 2 action counters, which he spent, he can take a shot at a model he can see that's within 12 inches of the board edge. So the Hidden Sniper shot at Zhao and did 2 blood. Now he would have been knocked out, but forgot to mention at the recap, he did recover 1 of his stun. So he's sitting on 3 blood, 2 stun in total with 6 endurance, so he's got 1 left, so he is going to be able to act. That was a last ditch effort to try and make sure that he didn't get to. So because he used 2 action counters to do Hidden Sniper, that left Slade with 3, he smacked using his katana the Talon and got 1 hit through, all said and done. The Talon had 3 defense dice in total, I think. No, he had 4, I think, and he used something. Either way, he used defense dice, managed to negate 2 of the hits, and 1 got through. The katana does 2 blood, which is leaving him on 5 endurance. He's otherwise okay though. So that's how the turn opened for Bane. Let's see how the Court of Owls act. Zhao acted for the Court of Owls' next activation, fearing that Bane could still catch him, and despite being heavily wounded, took the sewer grating all the way to the other side of the battlefield round here. And he is next to the medical container owned by the Court of Owls, so he is now holding that. He activated it as well to get a dose of narcotics, or whatever it's called, which he's going to use, which just means that he acts as if he wasn't wounded, even though he is heavily wounded. So, moving on to Bane's next activation now. Sensing perhaps that Strix had him in her sights, which she totally did, Elite Op activated and had all his points into movement and defense this turn. He moved all the way around here and got behind the car. He's close enough to Bane that he's probably relatively considered safe now. But Strix can still go for the Court of Owls. The Butcher can go, the Talon and Lincoln. We'll see who decides to go in a moment. Back to this awkward camera angle because the Gotham Butcher activated next. He had a horrific round of combat there. He has 5 attacks, needing 4s to hit the Stealth Op. Only 1 got through. I mean, that should have been a 50-50 success rate. And then he rolled a 1 on his wound roll. The Stealth Op amazingly survived. He must have just been like ducking and backflipping and sliding under the car, just avoiding every one of the claws coming in at him. The car is wrecked, but he is amazingly fine. So deciding to push his luck a little bit, the Stealth Op decided to activate. He only had 1 dice in defense, or die in defense rather, which didn't succeed, but as it turns out it didn't matter when the Gotham Butcher attacked him. So he unleashed 3 attacks, I think it was, yeah, 3 attacks with his katana against the Gotham Butcher. He did well. He got 2 blood through on a single hit, and then he got a stun for a match. Wait, that should only be 1 stun. It should only be 1 stun. There, 1 extra stun. And it would have been a knockdown as well, however the Gotham Butcher is huge, so he is immune to knockdown unless he's being smacked by another huge target. Still good result though. It's 3 damage on the Gotham Butcher compared to Stealth Op's 3 damage, so it's kind of an even combat, as bizarre as that is. So with no one left to activate, Bane had to go next for his crew. He could not make the distance to get to Strix, nor could he make it to the sewer grating that Zhao went through. So he opted instead to simply move next to his ace chemicals and activate it, so his next attack will have the poisoned roll. He's claiming it as well, so that will give points at the end of the turn. And that also means the final activations for this battle round will activate for the Coral Vowels unabated. So Strix gets to go, Lincoln gets to go, and the Talon gets to go. I feel like those numbers are off by one. Or did Lincoln already go? I'll have to go back and watch the footage now to make sure. Let's see who goes next. Yep, we spotted the mistake. We thought Lincoln had already gone. He should have gone before. Well, the Coral should have activated someone before Bane did. It would have been him because the other two are occupied. Didn't want to move Strix closer to Bane. So in the efforts of fairness, just going to say that Lincoln's going to stand there and commune with the Owl objective again for another turn. Our bad. Totally just messed up there with the order of who hadn't went. But everything else is now on track. Strix gets to go, as does the Talon, and then that'll be the end of the battle round. So apologies again after that mix-up, but everything else for the rest of the turn was back on track. The Talon activated first for the Court of Owls, attacked Deathstroke. Deathstroke's a tough nut to crack, only got one blood through with his owl knife that turn. Still contesting the objective though, so that's going to award no points. And then Strix activated. Could easily have reached a Bane and contested the objective he claimed. Did not think it was a good idea because Bane is tough. So she's fast, even with the -1 movement to spend for having the loot on her person. She made the distance to the elite op, got one wound through with her katanas, which did 2 blood to the elite op. So he is down 2 endurance, and now it's time to recap the battle round. At the end of battle round 3, the Court of Owls are communing with one of their owl objective markers. They are claiming the medical now on the far side of the Wayne Financial Building over there. And the Bane crew, the ammo is being contested, so it gives nothing. Bane is holding an ace chemicals for 1 victory point. Oh, Strix is still holding on to the loot as well. So the Court of Owls is pulling ahead thanks to them having that medical now as well. Bane's crew, they're all still standing, but that's not going to matter if they just don't start claiming victory points in some way. So, let's see who's going first. At the top of battle round 4, it is going to be... Oh. It is going to be Bane again, to even things up in terms of who gets first activation. Alright, Bane's crew first for battle round 4. Real quick addendum, the Stealth Op recovered 1 stun, Zhao and the Gotham Butcher did not recover any stuns. So for the first activation of battle round 4, Bane activated. He leapt and bound over the car there to face Strix and then just mercilessly beat her against the side of the car, unleashing a fury of attacks. She had nothing in defense because she was aiming to get the kill. Bane got 7 stun through to her. She has 6 endurance. She is knocked out. She can get back up, of course, if she doesn't get coup de grace. But that does mean she dropped the loot as well, so the loot is dropped there because her body's supposed to be there, but for dramatic effect, Bane lay her out on the car there. So that is going to at least reward some bonus victory points, or 1 because she's a henge person, for being knocked out. But good start. Finally starting to see the Bane crew coming back a little bit with casualties. Let's see how the Court of Owls react. Forgot to mention that Bane also used one of his 2 Venom doses that he starts with, which also made it easier for him to hit Strix. +1 strength, +1 to damage rolls. Anyway, the Court of Owls activated the Gotham Butcher in order to try and make up for past transgressions. Didn't roll super fantastic again. In the end only did 1 blood, 1 stun to the Stealth Op, who already had 1 blood, 1 stun left over. He had another stun at one point, but it healed. Can't remember if we mentioned that or not. Either way, he's barely standing. He has 5 endurance total, so he's got 1 left. But he is standing, and he's not diminished until the start of the next battle round, so let's see what he can possibly do about this. So Stealth Op activated, and while he's still fighting at full fitness, or more or less, he only had 1 less counter this turn, he struck out at the Gotham Butcher, managed to do only 1 wound through, so that's 2 more endurance. I think in total that's 4 blood, 1 stun for the Gotham Butcher. He has 8 endurance, so he's still okay. Moderately. If he would heal away that the stun damage, he'd be better. So more or less, not including the stun, half HP. A little embarrassing, he still hasn't managed to take out the Stealth Op, but he's making good use of dodging around that car apparently. The Talon activated next for Court of Owls, and this time he managed to land some good hits on Deathstroke. resulting in 3 blood dealt to him. He already had 1 blood sitting on him, so Deathstroke's at half HP. He does have a 1 per game use called Soul Armor, I think it is. I don't remember if that heals 2 or 3. It's a 1 use thing, it's a 1 use heal, so he'll have to take use of that next turn if he wants to stay safe. So good hits finally from the Talon there. Deathstroke activated next and still used his katana to just try and kill the Talon. Didn't do too well with his rolls, only got 2 blood through, so that's the Talon up to 4 blood sitting on him, which is, he has 7 endurance, so he's over halfway dead now. But Deathstroke isn't killing him as fast as I thought he would. Maybe a mistake going for the katana, maybe should have went for the bow staff for comboing and just going for the knockout and then using the katana after. That probably would have been smarter. Too late now, might change tactics going forwards. So now it's up to Lincoln Marsh, there we go. William Cobb is the Talon who we're staring at. Lincoln Marsh has to go, and then finally Elite Op to end the turn. Wrapping up the final 2 activations of Battle Round 4 here, Lincoln activated Fly again, leaving the L marker up there, and coming down here to help out the Gotham Butcher because it's just getting embarrassing at this point. He did 2 blood and 2 stun. That's a total of, I think, 4 blood built up on him and 4 stun. So not enough to kill him, but he is knocked out. Just put him on top of the car again for dramatic effect, and also so there's room to lay him down. So the Stealth Op, not dead, but is unconscious, so that will reward some points. Then the final activation for the turn was the Elite Op over here. He had nothing in movement, so he can't pick up the loot. So he opted instead to shoot at Strix, which counts as a coup de grace, I guess. Either way, he did 6 blood, so Strix is dead, which will also be another additional victory point. So we'll be back for the recap in a second to see recoveries and whatnot. So at the end of Battle Round 4, Zhao and the Gotham Butcher did not recover any of their stun damage. The Stealth Op did not wake up, so he's still going to be unconscious, perhaps free to be murdered in the penultimate turn. In terms of victory points, let's see, the Court of Owls have 1 for making a henchman knocked out and 3 for holding the medical on the far side of that building over there again. The Bane crew knocked out, or sorry, made a casualty, or knocked out then made a casualty of a henchman, so that's 1 victory point and another victory point respectively. Other than that though, the ammo is still contested as that fight between the Talon and Deathstroke carries on, after me saying that he probably wouldn't stay there for very long. So 2 victory points gained this turn for Bane's team and 4 for the Court of Owls. They're still pulling ahead fairly comfortably with victory points. Let's see who is getting first activation in the penultimate turn, which will also let us know who's getting activation in the final turn. Bane is getting the first activation of the penultimate turn, which means the Court of Owls will be going first on turn 6, but let's get started with Battle Round 5. So we've got a bit of an amazing opening to Battle Round 5 here, and definitely eye-opening in how you're supposed to use Deathstroke. Definitely supposed to knock out your targets first and then use the katana for coup de grace. He has combo for his bow staff and he can have up to 5 attacks. He opted not to try and use soul armor this turn because he wanted to get some things done. As you can see, he did 12 stun to the Talon, very, very knocking him out. He has 5 attacks base, he has combo bow staff, so if that's for every 2 in attack he gets an extra 1, so it's 7 in total. The Talon only had 2 in defense because he wanted still to have quite a few in attack despite being wounded with 4 endurance missing. 12 stun. Unbelievable. So the Talon is very much knocked out. Deathstroke will probably coup de grace him next turn. He's also now successfully claiming the ammo. Let's move on and see what happens. The Gotham Butcher activated next and coup de grace the Stealth Op, absolutely murderizing him. So the Stealth Op is now dead, and then you're allowed to attack and then move in this game. So then he just moved using his base movement plus being huge to cover the sewer grating there, heading towards the middle of the map, perhaps wanting to go after Bane, because again, the Gotham Butcher can't hold objectives, he only gets points for murdering. So although it is Bane's activation, just showing you Zhao back here to remind you all, haven't been covering his activations because, well, we've been forgetting that he's back here, but he's just sitting on the medical unharassed. So we're remembering his points, I've been mentioning the medical points, but as far as him taking turns, he's just been sitting there. Anyway, for Bane's crew, the Elite Op picked up the loot that was there. He then moved and is claiming the ace chemicals there. He didn't activate the ace chemicals, so he doesn't have poison, but the loot will be on his card in a second as well. So he is holding the loot, he is claiming these chemicals. Obviously that does put him in the danger zone of where the Gotham Butcher is, but hopefully they'll be able to survive. So with fewer models to activate, we're just going to run through the end of Battle Round 5 here real quick. Bane moved into position to kind of block the Gotham Butcher's advance towards the Elite Op, because he couldn't make any other distance with his movement. So he is there. Zell's obviously standing still on the objective, like we said. And then Lincoln, he technically could have kind of backed up the Gotham Butcher in the middle there, but there's no point risking giving up the victory points for taking out the crew leader. So instead he just used Fly, and once again is communing with the Owl objective up there for 1 victory point. So that's going to conclude Battle Round 5. Let's come back for a recap. So at the end of Battle Round 5 recap, Zell did not recover any stun, nor did the Gotham Butcher. However, the Talon, down there with Deathstroke, woke up. He can't stand up this turn, but he is awake and able to stand up next turn. And we know Court of Owls are getting first activation, so it's probably going to be him that gets first activation unless Deathstroke is just left to his machinations. In terms of victory points, a correction as well. Forgot that every Court of Owl hench person with the reanimated owl rule means they get to re-roll attempts to wake up after getting knocked out, but also when they're made a casualty they give up an extra victory point. So when Strix died, that gave up +1 victory point that's now being included in the tally. Other than that, the Bane crew have the loot, they have Ace Chemicals, and they have the ammo. The Court of Owls made a casualty of a henchman for 1 victory point, they hold the medical, and they hold 1 owl objective. So that covers everything. They're still ahead, the Court of Owls, but everything might change as we go into the final turn. And as we know, it's the Court of Owls who get first activation in the final battle round of the game. So the first activation of the final battle round was indeed the Talon. He used a counter to stand up. He then sliced at Deathstroke with 3 attacks from his owl knife, and he managed to land some good hits. Bonus stun from the collateral result, plus 2 hits, so 2 blood. That puts Deathstroke at 6 blood, 1 stun, leaving him on 1 endurance. So he held in there, but that fight went on a lot longer than I thought it would. Let's see if he now reacts. Oh boy, did Deathstroke react. Taking out his katana, he sliced up the Talon, dealing 6 blood. The Talon is now a casualty, so that's 1 for making a henchman a casualty for the first time. Well, sorry, you can only be a casualty 1 time. He was already knocked out, I think, which gave up 1. I'm gonna have to double check that was added. Yes, he was knocked out, not killed, because he stood up. So, bonus 1 for being made a casualty now after being knocked out, plus the bonus 1 for the reanimated owl rule, and Deathstroke is relatively safe holding onto the ammo, despite being on 1 endurance and not being able to use his soul armour to recover. So next activation for the Court of Owls was the Gotham Butcher, and he was in a bit of a problematic situation because he was geared up to fight, but he is heavily wounded, so he didn't have many counters left, so he didn't have any movement. His base movement is like huge, plus fast, plus his base. He is quick, but from where he was on that sewer grating over there, he couldn't make it to Bane, he couldn't make it to contest, he couldn't make it to the Elite Op. Therefore, rather than risk giving up the points, he would if he was taken down as a free agent, not a henchman, which is free agents are worth more. He also couldn't reach Deathstroke, incidentally. He opted instead to back up just to be safe. Bit of a cowardly move. Also means that the rest of the game is fairly set in stone. Zell has to camp his objective, Lincoln isn't going to be able to do anything, so he's going to camp his owl. The Elite Op is going to camp this chemical thing. Now without a target, Bane is simply going to camp these chemicals, and there's no more combat to be had. So we're just going to jump straight into the final turn recap after this with Bane moved over. So with a small cameo from Sora, hello there. Here's a quick recap of the victory points gained on the last turn. A owl was made a casualty, plus 1 bonus for being a Court of Owls Talon assassin. Both Ace Chemicals were held by Bane's crew for a victory point each. The loot was held for a victory point. The Court of Owls are communing with one of their owl objectives. They hold the medical for 3 as well. And that is it. Ended up being an exceptionally tight, close match, despite the Court of Owls getting an early lead. Final score was 23 victory points to the Court of Owls and 21 victory points to Bane's crew. There was a lot of turns where this could have went different. His Stealth Op hadn't lasted, he lasted a lot longer than he should have, just through some shocking dice rolls on both sides. So if he'd been taken out sooner, Gotham Butcher would have been able to stretch over the board sooner, maybe not taken out Bane but interrupted him. In the same line of thinking, maybe Bane would have taken him out for more victory points. The fight with Talon and Deathstroke, or the Talon and Deathstroke down here, went on a lot longer than I thought. Learned a bit about Deathstroke. Obviously the goal here is he's hard to hit, he hits hard. go for the stuns first and then coup de grace if you want to get the casualty points. His katana's good, 2 blood per wound to get successfully through, but 2 stun from each bow staff hit plus him getting bonus attacks for every 2 that he does with the staff thanks to having combo bow staff. He can just put out a shocking amount of stun damage, and then after that he can take a turn to do blood if he wishes to. Which I guess you kind of do against Court of Owls because they have that extra chance to stand back up if they get knocked out. So really close, the Court of Owls do win. It was a bit of a weird Bane list just to try something different, obviously also technically illegal because they were over the 350 point limit they were running. Still fun though, Deathstroke is great fun. He would fit in better with a different crew or with a different Bane leading this crew because Rebirth Bane is just so expensive. I do intend to pick up that new Dark Knight Rises starter set so I can get the other Bane from that, for instance, and plus some more Merc options and Cop options for Brave and the Bold. But that is going to conclude it. I hope you enjoyed. Might change the table up next time. Do let me know which crews... A gigantic pigeon just flew past the window. Let me know what crews you want to see in the future that I have access to. I'm working on getting another one on the table, a Scarecrow Militia one, but that might be a little while. Check out the playlist, it'll probably be popping up any second now in the bottom left of this video. If you want to see the other Batman battle reports, by all means point out any rules you think were done incorrectly or anything like that, ideally with rulebook citations, or pages at least. And if you're into 40k in terms of other tabletop stuff, I've got a playlist of battle reports for that as well. Thank you very much for watching this though, hope you enjoyed and we'll be back in Gotham real soon. Ta-ta for now.